On this episode of T Learns About Maine, local weather. Apparently when it rains, it pours, but at least it's not cold. So it kind of reminds me of like warm summer Texas rain. So I guess there's that, and I'll be home soon, so it's not that bad.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousma, and with me all across the country in Portland, Maine, we have the holiest of holies. It is the Reverend Tracy. How you doing?
Oh, well, I mean, you personally know that I am stoked right now because I've just learned a very important lesson about local weather in Maine, and that is when it rains, it pours. And I know I just sent a video to Tim about that because that was partially explaining why I'm a little tardy to our recording time today.
Yeah, but the listeners will have heard that audio at the start of this show. I thought it was pretty funny.
No, yeah.
So I thought we'd put that up there.
Yeah, that's the most recent. I got my hair did, which I know we don't do the visual anymore, but it's nice, like starting to get settled into Maine as I kind of learn about these things here.
Nice.
How about you?
Well, we here at the Friends Talking Nerdy Studios have been having a bit of a difficult week, as we talked about on our Wednesday show, which is, when we're recording this, the Wednesday show is going to happen tomorrow, so it's a weird saying that, but, it's continuity, everybody. On our Wednesday show, we gave an update about our other cat, Sherman. A couple weeks ago, my cat, Phil, passed away, and now Sherman, the other cat in the home here, what is not feeling good as well, and he's been to the vet, and he's 15 years old, and they don't know what's happening with him. And that's the tough part because, keeping him in the vet was going to cost a lot of money. And if they don't know what's going on, with a 15-year-old cat, it's like this. It would be I would want them to make that same decision if they were talking about a 70-year-old Tim. If they don't know really what's going on with me, I don't want any more unnecessary medical expenses raised. And so we've had Sherman home. And the first night he was wobbly getting over the drugs. The second night, I mean, ever since we got him home, he's been drinking water plentifully, but he's not been eating hard food. And the closest we can get him to eating anything of sustenance is we got some like wet cat food that's like tuna and broth. And so pop it in, and he's licking up the juices there. I did read about bone broth, and I guess some cats, that are sick, dig that, but he didn't dig it. He likes the classy stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, the one like it always worked was just tuna juice. And it's like you can actually go on cat forums and you'll probably find at least one post every once in a while where somebody accidentally got their cat like addicted to tuna juice. Yeah. And then it'll be all of the steps and tips for basically like detoxing the cat from tuna juice addiction. Because I guess that's a thing. But yeah, I've given it to the bean cat, the beans, when she's refused to eat or given me kind of any guff. She's getting older, so figuring stuff like that out is always handy for any other cat owners out there that need to make the cat eat something. Tuna juice.
Yeah, and basically my hope is that, what little sustenance he has been getting is like the equivalent of like when you and I get like a severe flu and, we eat like a couple of crackers and that's good for us. Overall not healthy, but hopefully it's enough that keeps him going along because, we're at the point right now to where, it's the next couple of days are going to tell us a lot. Just sadly, when we got a living creature that it has no capability of telling you it hurts here, you just got to hope for the absolute best. But so that's where we are with Sherman. But I did want to end on a humorous note with Sherman. I didn't want to have such morose news, so I wanted to tell a funny story about one of the first times, my first interactions with him. Now, at the professor's old house, she had a hot tub. And as it goes with hot tubs, especially on private property, you don't always have to have a bathing suit there, I guess. So I was using a hot tub outside, and then, done with it, wrapped up the towel, came back into the house, and I'm going into the bedroom to, change and whatnot. Sherman is sitting on the edge of the bed. I get near him. I take off the towel. He sees it. He freaks. He hisses, and then with his paw just swings and then smacks my trunk and then runs away. And then
he doesn't feel that bad then. Like, he'll still like, hey, you don't just whip it out in front of people. Didn't a certain comedian teach us not to do this?
Say please. Yeah, no.
You gotta ask.
Yeah, but ended up telling the professor about it, and she had a good laugh because apparently that was the first male that Sherman had ever seen. So I guess I can go to my grave now knowing that my junk put fear in another living being. So there is that.
You basically tormented like an old cat.
I was like, oh shit!
Like a flasher going by great grandpa's house. Like, oh,
look at this,
Never seen such things.
Yes, but you have some interesting dog-related news. Fill us in.
Yeah, so I had a friend bring my attention to something. So I am a plant-based person. I sometimes also use the term vegan. And so I think sometimes people think that I am super like on the pulse of all of the animal rights stuff. And it's like, that's not really my passion. It's other people's passions, but it's not mine. And what I thought was funny is I feel some concern that there's an actor that I enjoy, that he might be in some danger of a little bit of cancel culture / a victim to just really bad Entertainment Weekly headlining.
Okay.
So I wanted to read it just to share like kind of a reaction, if you will, like, and even really a sense of understanding, but also just an emphasis of you need to read the article. Even though the headline is grabbing, that's what it's meant to do. But ultimately, before you judge somebody and start talking copious amounts of shit, maybe pop open that article. So the headline of the article is Stranger Things David Harbour has buyer's dog killed off, or something like that. David Harbour suggested killing off the buyer's family dog on Stranger Things. And I guess some people maybe took this to mean like that he had the dog put down. And that is not what happened. I'm just assuming that because somebody in the wild came at me with this, I just wanted to share kind of unpacking this with my friend and going, okay, hold on. Like, I read the article. So by the way, really all it was David Harbour like really hated that dog, by the way. And any other Stranger Things fans out there, if you remember in season 1, the buyer's family did have a dog. And I was one of those people that read this article and went, oh shit, they did. Because I just forgot, because the dog just disappears at some point. And I guess it sounds like it did have to do with this actor saying, I've had enough of this dog. And basically it really came down to the dog was just extremely unprofessional and not trained. Like, I know it's funny, like even David Harbour like was making fun of himself that he is not the kind of actor to like stamp off and I'll be in my trailer. But he literally did that once over this dog just not doing what it was supposed to do.
And that's the thing, because like time is money on a movie set, and if you got an untrained dog that's not in its exact spot. I mean, I took theater in college for a bit in my 20s. You have theater experience, so the absolute importance of knowing your cues. And if something screws you up, that can screw like your headspace for the character. So and people are actually going after him for saying that they fictionally put a fictional dog to sleep?
I don't think so. It was just
Okay.
interesting that out of nowhere, one of my friends reached out to me with this. So I wanted to bring it up just because I did think it was funny, and also to kind of, and we wound up laughing about it at the end. So this person is not going to be offended that I brought this up, because they felt kind of silly about it, but it's understandable because this is the stuff we've talked about before on the show, where headline design is really just meant to make you click on it. And then it's really funny because the headline that came up in the feed, like, then you click on it, it was different. Because what I'm noticing here, because I'm remembering when I saw what she sent me, it was like the snippet of like he suggested dog be put down. And that was one of the suggestions he made for the character, the dog character, to be put down. But yeah, so just essentially be careful what you read out there, and please don't cancel David Harbour. He seems like a good dude.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about too, because sometimes I will see, especially on like pop culture websites like Latino Review Media, at the bottom of the page, you'll have like links saying, like Scarlett Johansson does something horrible, and then you click on it and I find it's just regular entertainment news. Or I mean, it's pure clickbait stuff, but it's just meant to like, oh my God, something big. Click on it and find out it's nothing.
I think that's what's going on, because I've even noticed that, because I Googled this. So then another article came up, and that's the one that I had wound up clicking for here. But the feed version of it had said something like David Harbour suggested putting down dog, buyer family dog, or something like that. And then you click on it, and then sometimes even the headline changes. So I don't know. There's some interesting stuff going on with how we do feeds and stuff. Feeds are great. Get interesting news, because otherwise this was kind of hilarious trivia that there was just this one dog that was just so unprofessional that this actor was like, I have never been that actor, but I have been that actor because of this fucking dog. So a little funny there. And if you want to see something on the flip side, because I guess maybe where this dog was extremely unprofessional, I'm not really sure why this came up on my feed. It actually made me think that OK Go had done something new, but a little Google feed nostalgia, I guess, that I will share with you guys if you haven't thought of a little band called OK Go in a while. And if you don't know this about them, they do really good music videos, just in general. One that they're really known for, because anybody who plays Rock Band knows that, that one OK Go song, Here It Goes Again. There we go. You've never heard of OK Go? Oh, man. No. Okay, so did you play a lot of Rock Band, though?
Not recently. I mean, when the Rock Band Guitar Hero phase first hit, I had a Guitar Hero game, so it's possible I may have, but it never made an impression.
Okay, so I almost want to ask you after the show is over to look up Here It Goes Again, because you may recognize it, because it is one of those that if you played Rock Band with people, that's the one that they like played a lot, like one of the very overplayed Rock Band songs. Yeah. So they did that one, and I remember they had a really cool music video, and their whole thing is they don't use green screens, they don't cut, like the whole thing is they do it in one cut. So the Here It Goes Again was this really awesome treadmill thing where they had lined up, like, I think 4 and 4 treadmills, like 8, but facing each other in different directions, and did this really cool stuff on there. Yeah. So for whatever reason, maybe because I was looking up Hollywood dogs, I don't know, but it brought up from 10 years ago, this music video called White Knuckles by OK Go. And it's a treat. I think I did get you to watch it before we got on to record, or are you saving that for later?
I watched about a good minute.
Okay. What did you think of the dogs?
The dogs were fine. I mean, dogs are dogs. I'm not that much of a curmudgeon that you get a dog, I'm going to be like, oh, fuck them, but it's just the music. Yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm
so distracted. Like, you're such a music person sometimes. So distracted by the music. Anyway, but I thought it was really sweet. And so if you're looking for some happy dog video to watch and want to take a trip down memory lane, Google felt the need to remind me that a video existed, which it was new to me because I don't follow stuff. And yeah, so go enjoy a dog video if you need some feel goods today for whatever reason.
And think about it too. I mean, what been like 20, more than 20 years since MTV has played any sort of music video. So who actively goes out these days looking for music videos? A lot of times I find them is by accident, on YouTube, and I'm on YouTube a lot.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only music videos that I watch is Postmodern Jukebox, and that's because that is part of their entertainment value. They do a whole scene around transforming a song from, current times back to the 20s or 50s or whatever. So, yeah, I guess I just don't do a lot of music videos, but it did lead me to find another one that they had done where it was, they found like a zero gravity, like the kind of plane thing or whatever. And that one was so outrageous looking. They had actually had like the captions on the front, like, no, like there really were no wires. This is all done in a zero gravity situation. So that one was kind of a trip to watch too, but
Yeah.
so.
Well, someone else. Yeah, someone else who directed a music video at one point. Kevin Smith. He directed the music video for the Afro Man classic Because I Got High. Do you remember that one?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I've seen that music video, but now I want to because I know you and I were chatting offline off this about Kevin Smith in general. I'm generally speaking a fan of his, but I'm suspecting that maybe you're going to go into some other news now.
Yes, and I want to make it clear up front that as far as Kevin Smith as a person, I think he, by all accounts, is a very nice guy. And with the type of content that he loves talking about on his podcast, like if I ever had a chance to be a guest on his podcast, I'd easily take that shot. And I think, we would have a great conversation, blah, blah, blah. But as a filmmaker, I used to really love him, but when I see articles like I saw the other day here announcing that Clerks 3 is officially in production again, I have to ask why.
The trilogy that nobody wanted. Like, is it just that he really wanted a trilogy? Because I thought he had gotten that out of the way with the whole Jay and Silent Bob.
No, that's interesting because there's a bit of history here. In 2017, I was actually able to break some news on Clerks 3 not happening for Latino Review Media. It was because of Wizard World Comic Con in Portland here. Jay Muse was there and said that the guy who plays Randall in the movies, Jeff Anderson, did not initially want to do Clerks 3, which is why Kevin Smith ended up doing Jay and Silent Bob reboot. But now they got Jeff Anderson back in the fold. They got Rosario Dawson. They got Brian O'Halloran. So Dante and Randall will be there. And it's going to be a completely new script, apparently. But again, for me, Kevin Smith is weird because out of all the people you see in pop culture today, it seems like everybody wants to be a psychoanalyst when it comes to Kevin Smith. They want to talk about why. It's like they want to project their idea of what they think his success should be onto him. And I find that a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just more stuck on the why a Clerks 3? Like what was left untouched in Clerks 1 and 2 that we needed a 3?
I mean, you could argue that we didn't need a 2. The ending of Clerks 2, kind of forgives that film in a lot of ways, but yeah, we didn't need a 3. And it's honestly too, it's like ever since Cop Out, Kevin Smith has not had the passion for making movies at all. I mean, I think he gave up the notion of breaking into mainstream Hollywood filmmaking a long time ago. And his last few films that I have seen, like Jay and Silent Bob reboot, have just been speaking to his fans. He's and that's fine, if you got a fan base, it's great, you can make stuff for them. But if everything is so inside, like Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I was telling you yesterday, all the jokes were essentially, I said this joke 20 years ago and now I'm saying it more sad and fat.
Yeah, it's like I haven't seen it. I don't even think it was on my radar being a thing. I actually liked Clerks 2. I don't know. It worked for me. I never had a, oh my God, this movie didn't need to be made. Although it is really funny that when you think about it, that fun trivia about Clerks 1 was that the original ending, I don't know, do you know where I'm going with this one? That
Yeah.
Dante was supposed to get shot and die at the end of Clerks 1. And so I am such a fan of Kevin Smith. I think he's interesting. I just don't want this to be that final movie or this continuation of this story that like makes people actually really wish that they had just killed Dante in the first one.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think Kevin Smith is trying to do a lot of what Stan Lee did in terms of, the type of persona he's trying to create and whatnot. But much like Stan Lee, it's just like, yeah, how many times can you go to the well before the well is dry? And you know, right now, Judd Apatow, Seth Rogen, they're making better Kevin Smith movies than Kevin Smith. Let's be honest. Once Judd Apatow movies started becoming a thing, once the 40-Year-Old Virgin, Superbad hit, there was no way Kevin Smith was going to break into mainstream Hollywood. And that does not mean he's not talented.
Oh, not at all.
That just means Hollywood was not going to be his thing. I mean, I wish he would break into TV more, because I guess coming this weekend, I believe, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe on Netflix with Kevin Smith as the showrunner is going to debut. So he's dipping his toe into TV, and there have been talks in the past of making a Mallrats sequel, but making it a TV show called Mallbrats, which I would love to see a Universe TV show. I think maybe he could have a little more fun with like, maybe like a 12 issue comedy show that's on Netflix or something like that. I think you could have some real fun with that. But as far as a movie, like, I saw there's that Yoga Hosers that he did with his daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter, where he dressed up as a bratwurst that was a Nazi. Yeah.
Oh, you mean that didn't make a blockbuster like top something anywhere? But
No.
wait, hold on. I thought Kevin Smith did already have his movie of success because like Jersey Girl, like I thought actually it didn't hit the points that he would. Because
Sure.
I thought the whole point of Jersey Girl was for him to show that he could make or not a real movie, but what can I say? Like a serious movie, like something that's not
A mainstream movie.
Yeah, like a more mainstream movie. And I thought he did well for that, but I don't like a lot of mainstream movies.
You forget one thing though. That came out a few months after a film called Geely, which starred Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. And the public by that time were so sick and tired of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck that once they found out Jersey Girl was going to be a thing and that Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck were both going to be in that movie, nobody wanted to watch it. It did not matter how good that movie was going to be. J-Lo and Benifer, I guess you can say, that whole thing just kind of turned people off. And I have not seen Jersey Girl, but other Kevin Smith fans that have seen it have said some good things about it because to your point, they say that this is probably his most Hollywood type of movie. But you got to think too, how many Jersey Girls is Hollywood making today anyway? They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it just seems like bad timing on his part. Because I think if he had done that any other year, because I didn't know that something had set that up for failure. Like, just kind of being tired. I mean, I recall being over J-Lo, and I actually recalled that being something that I had factored when I finally saw Jersey Girl, because it's like, I was hearing all these stories about her at the time where she was just kind of this little prima diva and, and that's just not something I like to support. So, but what's funny is I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this right, but I thought she died like right in the beginning.
yeah.
So it didn't even have her in it. And so what was funny was if you were sick of J-Lo out of the whole equation, it was actually quite like, haha, yes, I don't have to deal with her hardly at all. And they really didn't. There wasn't a lot of flashbacks to her. It's like they just got her to show up and do that one scene and then done.
But the backlash at that point was so bad. And if I'm not mistaken, if you look at the early advertising for Jersey Girl, Jennifer Lopez was highly factored because at that time she was a bigger name than Liv Tyler. Yeah. And if you're going to have someone of a name value of a Jennifer Lopez, you do want to show the world. And I get that logic, but I just don't know with him. Like Clerks 3, I'm not going to see it. Jing and Silent Bob reboot. Just I don't think I'm going to watch another Kevin Smith film again. Having said that, I love his podcasts. I love the show Comic Book Men that was on AMC. When he's talking, I got no problem with that. But going back to the psychoanalyze thing too, like me, I don't have the best self-esteem in the world, but hearing Kevin Smith talk at times, it's like, dude, come on, you're making movies. Don't talk that bad about yourself. I mean, because if you hear him talk, he's always there with a self-deprecating quip. And I don't got no problem with that to a point, because the more you do that, it's the more like you're trying to finish the thoughts of the goofs that you think people are going to give your way. And it's a defense mechanism. And I feel bad.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show, like, you can't fame yourself out of some mental hygiene and mental health issues, because I'm pretty sure he is one of those people who has been at least somewhat open about some of his experience and possible struggles. I know he opened up more about like health problems, because I remember him going vegan for a little while.
The heart attack. I can't
remember.
He had a heart attack and almost died.
Yeah. So he was like, yep. And then he went plant-based or vegan, or I don't know. I didn't look super into his diet. I just kind of looked into my interests and found it worked for me.
He's one of you. He's one of you.
Yeah, he's one of me. Us people, us weirdos, man. Yeah, like it's just funny getting shade again for being vegan. But anyway, like, because Maine, like I'm vegan. What the fuck do you eat? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I get confused and start eating pebbles and grass pieces. Like, where's the mower? Anyway, but yeah, I know he had been open about that, because sometimes I get him and Patton Oswalt a little confused. And Patton Oswalt is very not physically, just sometimes when they talk about stuff like their topics, because Patton Oswalt also incredibly nerdy, Kevin Smith also incredibly nerdy, and then they sometimes talk about serious stuff. Like, does that make more sense now? Like,
Patton Oswalt will, Kevin Smith not so much.
Well, I mean, he's gotten serious from time to time. But anyway, Patton Oswalt is very open about mental health more than I think Kevin Smith has. But to me, that just indicates, like, yeah, see, like, I don't think it's trying to get attention, because that's a weird way to try to get attention as a Hollywood person. It just, maybe he struggles with some things of that nature, and that I can relate to. Like, you can't fame yourself out of, some mental health struggles, just that, basically.
Yeah, and fame doesn't give you self-esteem either.
No, it does not. And really, look at how bad it can go sometimes, because we have had some fairly famous people that we have still lost to suicide. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure he's okay and stuff, because I know he's got like his family and everything too. But, you don't have to be like on the edge of that to struggle with some of those, self-esteem things. But yeah. You can't fame self-esteem into your life. Like, sorry, folks, for anybody out there trying to be the next big YouTube star, because I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get famous. I just like talking to my friends. So
There you go. Now, speaking of people that are trying to get famous, we have a little space race going on. Tell us about it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't even want to like say their names at this point. I just know a bunch of rich dudes are racing to space right now. And I guess one of them kind of made it up there for a minute or two, like just basically technically enough to say like, oh, here's your participation ribbon for being in space, mister. And some other people are kind of arguing semantics as to why it shouldn't be considered being in space. And then in my head, I'm like, I just don't really care. Like, how much are we supposed to care about these rich private citizens? Because yes, they're private citizens going to space, and I can get where that's a grabby and cool concept. But these aren't like, your neighbor private citizens. This is like freaking Elon Musk and Bezos, and then whoever this third idiot was that actually made it up into space.
Richard Branson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, it's just like people, these humans. Anyway, so I saw like a really great meme thought on it. And I know I shared it in our group, but yeah, it's just kind of my sentiment of I would care a lot more like, hey, can they have like some kind of competition where they can like feed the most kids or like rehome the most homeless? Like, we have real problems. And it would be nice to see like people care more about that, I guess. I don't understand why we care about this much. Can you enlighten me? I'm asking to be converted as the Reverend. Usually it is my job to try to like convince people of a way, but I don't understand this issue.
You know, it's they're trying to sell an idea of the capitalistic American dream here that just is not going to be attainable for the likes of you and me. And basically, this is the equivalent of like French aristocracy making the peasants celebrate because the queen got a new dress. There is nothing important about this. And I could care less about these people like Bezos, like look at all the money he has. And yet, he's forcing, women that work in Amazon warehouses to pay for feminine hygiene products in the employee bathrooms and shit like that. Barely having a minimum, a living wage, but only because people are forcing it, like all their union busting shit. I could care less about this because again, all they're going into space with is essentially stuff that they own. This is not like NASA, because NASA doing it for scientific purposes for the greater good, that you can kind of understand, even though it's still propaganda, militaristic in some ways, it still has its points. Go ahead.
That
Yep.
I support, actually. Like, I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw out there, like, I kind of support, like, NASA. I think it's incredibly sad and kind of a crime to humanity how much money we have, like, stopped investing in NASA and put it in,
Yeah.
like, other stuff that's just kind of stupid as a side note. But I don't need to get into that today. But just, NASA, cool. This shit, I just don't understand why we're supposed to care about it. And I think you just kind of said it best. It's very much somebody got a new dress and would like to flaunt it and wants all of the praise and all of the ooh-hoos and all the news coverage. But yeah, and maybe that's why it just bugs me so much. I'm very overhearing about these men racing to space.
Yeah, because they're doing it for their own companies. Their goal is to create luxury travel into space. And you missed an article from what's her name, the young Mila Kunis, and was talking about her husband Ashton Kutcher. Apparently, Ashton Kutcher wanted to get one of those tickets to go into space, and she told him, "I don't think it would be safe for you, and I don't think it's a good idea because you have a young family." And I just think that it's incredibly arrogant to have that kind of conversation with a reporter, because it's just like, you're so fucking rich that you're debating going into space.
Oh my God.
Like a middle class person, like a middle class wife is going to yell at her 50-year-old accountant husband for buying a Harley. you know and it's just rich people doing rich things. It's not going to benefit me in any way, shape, or form. When you take science, when you take health, when you take things that should not be run by private entities and have them be run by private entities, it is strictly going to be something that is going to be good for somebody's bottom line. And they're not, you want scientists to do science things, to learn about the world, to learn about the universe, and they're not going to do that here. All they're going to do is, find out ways so they can have stewardesses or stewards, or whatever, flight attendants in space, and train them and whatnot. It's just all going to. Not everything needs to make money. Not everything should make money, and space should especially not be one of them. Because what's going to happen if, you have one of these luxury things into space, and then like Tom Cruise is blown up?
Well, I mean, I don't think I personally be too sad about Tom Cruise.
That wouldn't be that much of a lot, but you get my point.
Thing.
You get my
but
point.
Yeah,
there. Big name.
Like, not everything needs to be a product. A product or service of some type. And it's like, I know there's like a lot to be said of, oh, well, I mean, if you had money and you're interested in the moon, like, you shouldn't be mad at people for just having money and being interested in going to the moon. And I guess there is that element to it. You know what I mean? Like, if you have the resources to be able to go to the moon, like, even though right now it seems like it's only going to be for rich people,
why not go? Like, I don't know Ashton Kutcher. I don't know his heart and soul or anything, or if he like rescues puppies in his spare time. But I just I kind of wish we could go back to caring more about space and learning about space and stuff around us, like, and how to take care of what we've got, because then it almost makes you almost sci-fi level concerned of like, okay, are the rich people just going to figure out how to get out of here and then just going to leave us in this burning hole of like the missing atmosphere? Like, is that what we're spinning up to? But yeah, I don't know. I don't care about rich people racing to space, because that's what it's going to turn into, is just hotels. Like, the most realistic thing is it's going to turn into these high-end luxury hotel getaway things, and then like very Futurama-ish levels maybe at that point.
You just won a trip to the Hilton Space Station.
Oh my God, I would only win that just so they could like shut me up. Like, she talks too much about conspiracies.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, Z, and no, I don't.
Yeah, Cher is going to be playing the Zero Gravity Showroom.
On the past.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, like, I don't know. Would you do it? Like, if you won one?
Run by a private entity, no, because again, private companies, you know, when you have a big project like that, a lot of times they like outsource to other companies, to like a building, you know, and what they do then is get like the lowest bidder. Do you want the lowest builder building your spaceship, or do you want a government bureaucracy that will give you safety for the most part? I mean, not 100%. Obviously, we know in our history it's not 100%, but NASA does have a pretty good track record of keeping astronauts safe.
Oh, there we go. See, it can be win-win here. Hear me out. See, all good things start with hear me out. But you know, NASA needs money, and you know, the people who maybe do not have the most money would also maybe like to go to space and feel like we're not going to go to the lowest bidder. So maybe let us like get a raffle ticket just for a chance, right? A chance to just sit in the back, and all you're going to do is go with them to like the space station and back. Just one person is drawn each little trip that goes out and does some fucky fuck thing. And NASA can have more money, and then more people like us can actually take these once in a lifetime experiences and maybe have a chance to go to space. See, that I would maybe do. I'm with you. Like, I would rather like hitch a ride on NASA. And then I know my money is actually going towards NASA research and not just Jeff Bezos continuing his Bezo lifestyle, being on his bullshit or whatever we're calling it these days.
Yeah, I did love the crew photo that him and the 3 other people did, because they put it up online and then everybody started goofing on them, saying they're like a makeshift Fantastic Four, and they, you know, we're all stupid and all that
well,
stuff.
At least we got memes out of it.
Yeah. So anyway, any more you want to bring up about that?
Oh, no, not really. Other than I think we covered that just about the appropriate amount of time that we should.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Whatever. NASA, do a raffle. I think you'd be surprised at the amount of support you would get for somebody to just taxi along and just sit down, shut up, and don't touch any buttons on the way to space and back.
Remember, though, The Simpsons did that first. Homer and Barney having that competition. Then Homer goes into space, and that's where he has the bag of Ruffles. Buzz Aldrin is with them. He was a special guest on the episode. And then I loved it because Homer opens the bag and chips go in like zero gravity, and then Buzz Aldrin goes, "Oh no, they're ruffled."
Oh my God, I remember the "oh no, they're ruffled" thing. I totally forgot that happened in space. So yeah. Whatever. So I'm not original, but NASA still. If you're not going to listen to me, listen to the geniuses that write The Simpsons. There. Yes. Like, it was not a bad idea if 2 people thought of it.
Okay. Well, a few weeks back on July 5th, I do want to talk real quick about the passing of one of my favorite directors, and a director who I think, as far as pop culture that modern audiences today really appreciate, really was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and that was Richard Donner. Are you familiar with Richard Donner?
I think you know the answer to this, Tim.
Yes. Okay. I wrote in our show notes that this segment, we're going to find out just how isolated Tracy was as a child in her Christian home.
Spoiler alert, the answer's a lot for several reasons, but go ahead.
you're like most of these movies. You're like, well, is there a VeggieTales version? No.
Oh God, no, it wasn't quite like that, Tim. But
Okay.
I'll let you continue because God, I was not raised in an actual good. Never mind. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't think most people can say they were, but anyway, Richard Donner got his start directing in television in the late 50s, thanks to his good buddy Steve McQueen. And let me guess, you have no clue. I saw that look on your face. You have no clue who Steve McQueen was. Steve McQueen.
See, you're partially wrong there because the look on my face right now means I've heard that name before and I'm trying to put it together. But Steve McQueen does sound familiar, so keep going. I'm following.
Yeah, Steve McQueen was basically the archetype 70s action star, like the big guy, because he did stuff like Bullet, The Towering Inferno, things like that. Bullet was actually the first Hollywood movie with a proper car chase. So kind of set the standard there. So being able to get his start, thanks to his good buddy, got him into television up to the point to where he recorded an episode of The Twilight Zone called Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with William Shatner. And by the look on your face, I think you're familiar at least with the idea of that. I think you get the premise.
I know William Shatner.
The premise,
go ahead, I guess.
yeah, the premise is Shatner plays a guy who had a nervous breakdown, and he's on the plane, and he happens to see a gremlin or something on the wing of the plane destroying it, and he freaks out. And then at the end of the episode, he is able to get his hands on a gun because of an air marshal, shoots out the window, and then shoots the person. He keeps everybody safe, but he's brought away to a sanitarium by the end of the episode. And that episode was actually remade for The Twilight Zone, the movie, in 1982 with John Lithgow starring, and that was directed by George Miller, who did the Mad Max movies, also did Happy Feet and Babe.
Oh, what an array. I like John Lithgow, so it's like that. And isn't that there's something on the wing?
Yes.
Isn't that thing they're making fun of? Okay, because see, Ace Ventura made fun of that movie because that's what I remember. Yeah, because it's like, there's something on the wing, something. But I have not seen it, but I at least know it is being referenced there now. So thank you for teaching me something today. I needed that.
Yes, The Twilight Zone, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. But from there, he did steady work in television up until 1976. His big break in the movies was a Gregory Peck horror movie called The Omen. Think you being a horror film fan, I think you may be at least aware of that movie. That basically a couple finds out that their child Damien is the son of Satan.
Yes, and see, I mean, I don't have to correct you, but I'm going to. I am not a horror fan. I know I know it confuses a lot of people because yes, I am a haunted house director, but that actually comes from a lot of background of natural nightmare fuel, like going on in my own head, and not from actually watching movies. But no, I don't really watch scary movies. I had never even been in a haunted house before, so it's odd that I wound up being a haunt director, but it is a common misconception with me is that I love horror. I actually would never watch that movie because I will entertain watching some horror films, but not if it deals with evil children or evil puppets or evil animals. Basically, small evil things like really creep me out more than I can handle, and then I won't sleep for weeks.
Well,
Not weeks. That's a hyperbole, but I can handle it better like nowadays. But traditionally, I have just avoided like the plague. I had good friends that would warn me when The Walking Dead was on because zombies. I don't do zombies. Kind of still.
I remember that. Yes. So
fuck zombies.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, a couple years later, he got the film that he's probably most known for, and that is Superman the movie. Thanks to him, he gave us the perfect iteration of on-screen Superman. He was responsible for the casting of Christopher Reeve. Thank goodness. And also his concept for Superman was verisimilitude. he wanted that movie to feel real, and I think by doing that kind of showed audiences just the types of movies that he introduced audiences to, the types of movies that you can make with comic book movies. They weren't, you could get a lot more emotional depth from them than just the pow zap boom that you experience either in comic books or Saturday morning cartoons. So as a fan of these types of movies, this is the first, and I'll be forever grateful. 1982, he made a Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason movie you probably never heard of, called The Toy. Are you familiar with that?
The Toy? Richard Pryor, is that who you just said? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I've seen The Toy. I loved that movie. I thought it was great. Yeah, this terrible rich white boy gets to own a black man as a toy. Like, essentially, that's totally what that movie is about. But it's funny. I thought it was great, and it is Richard Pryor being hilarious. But I'm correct on the description of that movie. Like, that is totally what is going on. And it's like, ooh, put that under the list of movies that could not be made today. But good Richard Pryor movie. It's a good one. Worth watching.
And funny to note, the little boy in that movie later did porn. So,
well, I mean, who has it nowadays? I mean, technically.
Yeah. From there, in 1985, he made a pair of movies. One with Michelle Pfeiffer called Lady Hawk. Okay, Professor.
That one I don't know.
Yeah, the professor's in the background. She heard that. She's like, so good.
Nice.
Another one that was filmed in Astoria, Oregon, that I even haven't seen. I don't even remember it coming out. 1985, The Goonies.
Oh, that's right, because that is a movie I had meant to watch, like in Astoria while I lived over there. But I, just to kind of be a nerd about it, it was something my ex-husband and I had actually talked about doing, was going to Astoria sometime because he liked to go to the beach to write, and I was going to and then we'll watch The Goonies like in a hotel room, and then we got divorced, so that never happened. Oops. But I should watch it. I've heard it's a good movie though, so
it's considered it's considered a kid's classic. You get a lot of actors that are big in Hollywood today that are actually in this movie. Like Josh Brolin as a kid is in this movie. Sean Astin is in it. The kid who played Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, he's in it. I found out too, there's a heavyset kid in that movie. Later in life, that kid wanted to go to college and sent a letter to Richard Donner and his wife asking for a letter of recommendation. Richard Donner called him back and says, "I will not do that. I will pay for your college." And I thought that was really awesome. It's like you hear these stories about him, but there's another movie here that he made in 1987 that I'm sure you are aware of, probably more than the other ones here, that he did with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yes, at least familiar with. I'm pretty sure that was one that got watched in the background of my childhood like a number of times. I don't know if I've actually watched it, if that makes sense. Just because I've seen it. I mean, I'm sure most people can relate to that. Like, there is movies that played in the background of your childhood that you didn't watch it, but you've kind of seen it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the beauty of these films is that Lethal Weapon was essentially one of the first buddy cop movies. It set similar to what Superman did for superhero movies, Lethal Weapon did for buddy cop movies, kind of set the template for it. The first film was a little more on the serious side. The other three were a lot more humorous and funny. I mean, once you get like Joe Pesci, Rene Russo, and Chris Rock involved, there are going to be some laughs. Another film of his that I'm sure there are laughs, trust me. Another film that he made a year later, you may have heard of, with Bill Murray, Scrooged.
Oh, yes, I loved Scrooged. Scrooged is such a good one.
Yes. And so as you can see, as far as the movies he's made, the movies he's made are still influencing filmmakers today. They're influencing the types of stories that are still being told today. But he also, in the 90s, kind of did a transition from directing to producing, and some of the some of the films he produced were The Lost Boys, Free Willy, and
I
stuff
know The
like
Lost
that.
Boys and Free Willy, because
Yeah.
those I've totally. Now, Free Willy I have watched. And The
Gotcha.
Lost Boys, I think I've watched at one point, but it might have been a long ass time ago. But Free Willy, I remember because
Yeah.
whales. We should care about them and not keep them in captivity. That was like one of the movies that really helped get the whales out of SeaWorld, actually, and stuff like that. Was it drew attention to that droop, like being a depressive symptom in whales?
Indeed.
Yeah, like that's a thing.
He was a PETA ambassador. And last but not least, he helped produce the X-Men movies, where when he's produced them, he hired a guy by the name of Kevin Feige, who ultimately went on to head Marvel Studios. So there is that. So Richard Donner passed away, lived a nice long life, and his work will be felt for many, many years to come. So I think it looks like we're about to wrap things up, because I do believe the professor has to the professor, what I'm saying, the Reverend has to go pick up the Mr. Reverend here.
Yes. Yeah, because the aforementioned raining to pouring, we've, in a little side nerd, if I may, really quick, one thing that seems to blow people's minds around here is that we walk places and stuff like that. So actually, the Mr. Reverend and I ran into his work today. So we went on a jog. I dropped him off at work, went and got coffee, and then I walked back home. But the plan was for him to walk home today. Well, as you will know, because I might also just go ahead and share my video of me learning about the local weather today on our Facebook group, just so you can have the visual. It's coming down right now. So I think I'm going to go pick him up instead of having him walk in the rain. So thank you for being willing to kind of like segue into that one for me. But
yes, no worries. So we want to make sure he's dry. So we will wrap things up. We thank you all for listening. Remember, every Wednesday and Saturday in this podcast space, you will hear something to entertain your ear holes. We thank you all for listening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.